We're going to turn it over to Martin Galvin, who needs no introduction. He's been a pleasure to work with. He's educated me. Every day I'm on the phone with him, I feel like I'm in grad school, Martin. So, gents, let's highlight Martin and take it away.
Okay, worthy Vice President, first of all, I think I'm sorry for John Fitzmaurice, who does such a great job on the Resolutions Committee, but playing that video from Joe Austin, from Belfast National Graves, from Vic McFarland, I think I couldn't have asked for a better introduction for the idea of Freedom for All Ireland. Brother O'Connell had started what I think is a great innovation. He had suggested the idea that when we go to Ireland this year, that we give out checks, that we take videos with some of the groups. Obviously, we had to cancel that or postpone it because of the health situation. But we started that initiative. We had actually asked Mark Thompson about it. He sent a video, which many of you have seen. And he talked about how the AOH, it seems like we shoulder the burden along with families like those who are represented by Relatives for Justice, like those, like the Ballymurphy massacre families, like all of the other families that they represent. You just heard from Vic McFarland and Joe Austin talk about how they have always looked to America. And when they look to America today, they look to the Ancient Order of Hibernians to be there for them anytime that it looks like they're down, to come up, to support them financially, to support them politically, to support them at times, whether it's the hunger strikers, whole blanket protests leading up to that. I also, I have just a letter in front of me. I just noted there was we're going to have John Taggart, who's the head of the Ballymurphy families, and it's a copy of a letter he reminded me about. It was from May 5th. It was a letter actually that went out from the British ambassador at that time, Kim Darroch, to Congressman Peter King, Congressman Richard Neal, Congressman Michael Doyle, and others. Now, that was a letter that followed Carmel Quinn's tour across the United States. We got a congressional letter. The British ambassador had to reply to that. Whenever they reply, they actually have to consult the Foreign Office. It goes all the way up through the British chain, that this is something American congressmen are interested in. I'll never forget John Taggart telling me that for a long time, the British government just treated them like nothing. It was something that they had to check the bases every once in a while, said they would meet with the Ballymurphy massacre families, those 10 families, 11 really, who lost their lives in August of 1971 and the days immediately following internment. One of them had died of a heart attack after a mock execution, the 11th. And John told me that for a long time, the British government treated them like nothing. It would have to meet with them, the pro forma, and then say, just to say, we met with the Ballymurphy families. And they'd say, what about the innocent families? And they wouldn't treat them with any respect. And he said that after Carmel Quinn came out on a tour, after Danny O'Connell and Jerry Cole marched with them in Ballymurphy, after Judge McKay led an American delegation there into the courtroom, and after we got that congressional letter from a number of congressmen about the Ballymurphy massacre, that they had a different type of meeting. He said, we went in, and all of a sudden, we were treated with respect. The British government was very interested in what we had to say. They had to make some positive responses. And they came out, and they were stunned. And they said, why did that happen? And then they realized, all of them said together, because when we went in that room today, America was with us, the AOH was with us, the Congress was with us, and that's because of what we do through Freedom for All Ireland. So when you listen to people like Mark Thompson, when you listen to people as serious as Vic McFarland and Joe Austin, when you listen to people like John Taggart and the Ballymurphy families, I want you to know, when you work on FFAI, when you follow the initiatives, if you take nothing else away from what I'm about to say during this report, never forget for a second how important we are to those families, how important we are to the whole issue of Irish freedom, how important we are to those people who are still striving for justice because they are victims of British rule and they have been denied the freedom for all Ireland that everybody, all 32 counties should have. Okay, let's look. There's two other things. John Fitzmaurice not being on, he does such a great job with the Resolutions Committee. I've seen him. People come in with resolutions, there's a few words, and the next day when they're read out for a vote, John has them all in a great form. FFAI is submitting actually 3 resolutions. 2 of them I want to talk about very quickly because they've already been mentioned or alluded to. One is on the hunger strike and the hunger strike legacy resolution. And it just mentions the background of the hunger strike. Vic McFarlane started talking about it, how the British, 1972, they recognized political status or special category status, how they were embarrassed because congressmen kept saying, oh, look, how come you have so many political prisoners in Ireland? They tried to take that away, and they were willing to use torture, beginning in September 1976 in Kieran Nugent. They were willing to use torture. They were willing to use brutality. They were willing to go through one hunger strike in 1980 and then a second hunger strike in which Bobby Sands and Patsy O'Hara and Francis Hughes and Raymond McCreesh and the others died rather than wear a criminal uniform. And how we want to support that, remembering not only did they do that to the families of Irish political prisoners, but that they did it in attacking those who supported them. They killed members of the H Block Committee. They did it attacking Irish children who attended demonstrations with plastic bullets. And we also want to bring in the fact how important America was during that campaign. There is a resolution when you are talking about next year being the 40th anniversary. We're encouraging national, local commemorative events, ceremonies, and forums to study, preserve, honor the legacy of the hunger strike martyrs, the women prisoners on Armagh, and all those in the community. And we want to especially remember as we do that, the role that the Ancient Order of Hibernians played in supporting the hunger strikers. I'll never forget one of the most important meetings I've ever had, one of the most moving meetings. When we were about to begin daily protest for the hunger strikers at that time. John Egan, the state president in New York, Mike Coogan from Ohio, one of the national leaders, Frank Fury, who was about to become or had already become the editor of the Hibernian Digest, and Dan Dennehy, not the one who's a national director, but his father, came to me, said they've been in touch with Sean Connolly, they've been in touch with Joan Roach, they have been in touch with all the national leaders, and that if there are demonstrations in support of the hunger strikers, the AOH will be there. The AOH will be there with banners each and every day. We'll be there across the country. And that was a key factor. I want to memorialize that. So that is one of the resolutions, very simply, a legacy resolution reciting the fact that right now, relative to the other groups are still fighting for justice. The British government, they actually on March 18th, nothing gets in the way of British injustice in the north of Ireland. They announced that they don't want to do what they agreed to in Stormont House in 2014. They don't want to do what they're obligated to do by the European Convention on Human Rights, give independent, real, authentic legacy investigations into these deaths, that they just want to do something, have what they'll call an independent committee, and wave a magic wand and say, no new evidence, no new possibility of prosecution, and wipe these all away. So that's something else that we want to have, that when we have resolutions like that, doing it, it's not just to pass a resolution and hope Jerry Cole sends them out at the end of the convention, all the groups who met. We're doing it to target certain areas. There'll be other initiatives that we have to deal with that'll come up during the next year, or until our next convention. But we want to have a special effort, and you heard Vic McFarlane talk about the hunger strike. We've already started that with the video that Danny O'Connell prepared for. All right, now those are two resolutions. Those will come up when they come up at the end of the convention. I'd ask you to support it. All right, how are we planning to support those initiatives? How are we planning to support the families? How are we planning to support all those groups in Ireland? First is speaking tours. Now, you've seen some of those speaking tours, and when I was appointed as a Freedom for All Ireland chairman, I was told that that's only something you can only do in New York and Philadelphia and on the East Coast, around Washington, New Jersey, in some areas. That you can't do that. You can't do that in the Midwest. And of course, they didn't deal with Danny O'Connell. They didn't deal with Denny Parks. They didn't deal with Sean O'Dowd in Chicago. We've now expanded those speaking tours out to the Midwest, Chicago and Ohio being the first two areas there. We've now expanded them south to Virginia. We've now expanded them to the Northeast, been in Massachusetts, we've been in Connecticut. We want to do a better job in those areas. So we're talking about speaking tours. There's nothing like bringing people like Carmel Quinn, like Mark Thompson, like some of the other speakers, Mark McGovern, the other speakers that we've had, to speak to you directly so that you can see them in the room, so that you can hear from them. You can talk to them afterwards. You can bring along people who may want to join the AOH because of what we do on Freedom for All Ireland. You can recruit people from those events. You can raise money for the Christmas appeal at those events. And of course, they get a lot of publicity. We set the agenda. We invite other groups in. We set the agenda. Mark was on the phone to me this morning. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit with the Congressional initiative. He was talking about Elliot Engel, my congressman, being defeated, which 2 weeks ago we knew that was going to happen. He is somebody who led a congressional hearing on Ireland, on the North, invited Mark there, invited Mark McGovern there, and was one of the most important things that we were able to do during the past 2 years. Elliot Engel is now gone, along with Peter King, along with Nita Lowey, along with some of the other congressmen that we've gone to, but how we have to rebuild that. But one of the first things we're going to try is speaking tours in November this year. Now, I don't know if it's feasible. Frances Meehan, Mark had recommended somebody named Frances Meehan. She's a woman whose brother, Michael Donnelly, was killed by a plastic bullet fired by the British. It was on the night of a rally near his home during the, just on the anniversary of internment on August 9th, another night of a rally, a night of many bonfires through the North, was killed, murdered. It was a time of great tension because of the lead up to the first hunger strike in 1980. Marcus recommended her very highly, said that she's just as good as Carmel Quinn, which is a high recommendation indeed. I'm going to try to recommend to the National Committee that we bring her out, that we try to set an agenda that's, again, if the health situation allows. People are asking me, do you think you can definitely be able to do that? I don't know. If I did, Dr. Fauci would be calling me for advice. I wouldn't be able to give it to him. But that's the type of thing we're trying to do. We have those plans in mind. We're trying to have those organized for you. And if we can't do it, we'll do plans by video the way Danny O'Connell has already started. We'll set up forums on that basis with her, with maybe some of the other people like Bernadette Devlin, who was severely shot as a member of the HWAC committee, with some of the other people, family members of people killed during that period in time. But that's what we're hoping for. And if you want somebody in your area, you got to do what Danny O'Connell did, what Sean O'Dowd did, what Denny Parks did. You got to say, we want them in Chicago or in Ohio. We want them in our area. I will be responsible for organizing an event. I will be responsible for paying the way of the transportation on top of making a contribution down to the general fund for pay for bringing people out from Ireland. I'll be responsible for doing the publicity, getting a hall, doing all of that to make it worthwhile. And we want to have more speakers here. Speakers want to come. There's no reason we can only do 1 or 2 a year. There's no reason they all have to go through me. I'd like to see a day where we have tours just only in the Midwest, or only in the South, or even used to be able to do tours on the West Coast with San Francisco and Los Angeles and some of the other areas. But in order to do that, we've got to expand the FFAI committee. We've got to expand to get people who can do that. I just leave that with you. This is what we're planning.
Martin,
Yeah.
if I can interrupt for 1 minute. One of the brothers, Brother Kevin Delaney, asked if you'd talk just a little slower. And I know Judge McKay is driving, and if he gets a speeding ticket, because Sean sent a standing ovation to you. Judge McKay said, his text to me said, Martin's fabulous, but we don't want him getting a speeding ticket. So just online, it's a slightly harder to follow. And then we have, we're at 12:22. So when you do finish, you'll have time for questions. Our stop is 12:55 with the hard stop at 1 o'clock to go into PEC. But I'm sorry to interrupt, brother. Go ahead and return.
Brother Z, I should have mentioned at the outset, I come from Bronx, New York. We all talk fast. You know, I'm a lawyer. Judge McKay knows, you know, with a lawyer, you got to get as much in before the judge shuts you up. So that's, I can blame him if I get a speeding ticket. So I apologize, brother. All right. We're hoping to have a speaking tour. We're hoping to do one in November. I've already been told that Albany, their event, Tim McSweeney, Liam McNabb, Dolores Detch, Kieran Doherty, they run a great event every year. They're doing theirs this year on November 20th. I have an event on November 22nd. Jerry McHale, Philadelphia, they do a great event. Ed Halligan always attends. They're going to try and do something the previous week. We could do something if the health situation allows. We can do something around those events, guaranteed successes. And that's what I'm hoping to do. And if we can't, we'll try and do something by video. Okay, moving on. Congressional action. Mark told me about called about to issue regrets about Elliot England. As I said, as you know, we're losing a number of great congressmen. They're retired. Peter King is not coming back. Nita Lowey is not coming back. Congressional letters, congressional hearings are key. The British pay a lot of attention to. When we bring speakers out, we always try and get them in Congress, in Washington, many meetings as possible. We were able to have a congressional hearing. What we're trying to do right now is rebuild that network. I was in touch, I just looked at the Foreign Affairs Committee. I looked Gregory Meeks from Queens. I called John Manning, who's a New York State officer, along with Kira Mahoney and others. They have 3 or 4 AOH divisions in his district. They're going to try to work and bring him in. I know one of the stalwarts there last time in Buffalo was Congressman Higgins, and he was there because Tom Lambert, the state president, talked to him and said, you got to go to those events. I know Peter King, people told me he wasn't interested anymore. Vic Vogel started to go to his office and got him in there. Everybody can do this. You go to a local office, you say, I'm Irish, I'm in the area. We are concerned about freedom for all Ireland issues. I'll give you copies of letters that congressmen have sent out in the past, signed by 10 or 12 congressmen. All you've got to do is ask them, if we get a letter like that on an Irish justice issue like Ballymurphy or Legacy or something like that, will you sign it? Will you be the 17th or 18th congressman? If we have somebody in Washington, can they get 5 minutes of your time? Can you go along? And if they see they're following other people, they can do that. But if you don't do that, you don't set the groundwork, you don't go to the local office, you don't start saying, hey, you know, I'm a constituent, I'm interested, who could I speak to about this, and build that relationship. When the time comes, when the crisis hits, you're not going to be in a position to do that. And don't just go in and say, I'm interested on Irish issues. Congressmen always say, I'm with you all the way. And they're with you all the way till you get out the door. We have a letter. If we have attending a hearing, if we have an issue like this, you have that, they either sign it or they don't, and we know who's there or not. You follow up and call them and say that we support them, you know, we thank you. So that's another thing. Congressional action is key. That's something that they rely on. State resolutions. I'm hoping the last couple of years in New York, we've been able to have resolutions on the Irish Declaration of Independence, on the Vote for Freedom in 1918. We're scheduled to have one this year on some of the martyrs of the Black and Tan Wars, like Kevin Barry, like Terrence McSweeney and others. And it was canceled because of the virus, but we had it all set. Next year, the hunger strike will be the 40th anniversary. Everybody, many people were inspired by Bobby Sands, an elected official. British paid no attention to that. The death of Bobby Sands actually occurs 2 days from the time that the British government is celebrating the centenary of the North of Ireland. That is a state that created the hunger strike, that made second-class citizens of people in the North of Ireland, that treated their families as criminals, that treated them as criminals, and denied them so much. Hunger strike issue exposes that, says this is what you're celebrating in the North of Ireland. We're going to have, one of the things in my report is that we will send out plan resolutions for New York State, for the other state. In New York, because with the last couple of years, we've had large attendance. Last time we were there, Liam McNabb told me, you know, as soon as we started to walk in, guys started to approach him and say, oh, gee, the hunger, you know, the AOH is here, because we have a crowd. They know it, people recognize it. They all want to sign on. They want to take their pictures taken with us. And we promote our history. We promote our resolution. British government pays attention. We are doing something that is going to get that history around the state, supports it, builds up. It's a great event for us. We've done that in New York, and we can do it around the country. Other resolution, okay. Malachi McAllister, I have him down. I have a resolution. I'm going to leave that for Dan Dennehy. Malachi's whole situation is something that's based on immigration and freedom for all Ireland. There's a work with Sean Pender on as well. They've done a tremendous job. Obviously, anything we do with Malachi is going to depend on who's the president in January. We're not going to get anything from Donald Trump's administration. But, you know, that's something that we're, again, hoping to take up. And I want to commend him and congratulate him for all the work that he did just to bring the issue of the North alive. Okay, next thing. People have asked.
Well, Martin, just point of information, Malachi will be joining us on today's call during the immigration session. which begins at 4 o'clock. So Brother McAllister will be online with us today. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, I moved on. The next thing is we're trying to host a tour in February. February has been the best time in the past. Brother Pender, who has helped organize those, did organize them exclusively for a number of years and worked with me last year, said that February is a great time. What we would like to do this time is, again, back to that issue with the hunger strike. Focus on, I'm fortunate enough, I know most of the hunger strikers' families. So several of them have agreed to attend events. We can bring in people like Mick McFarland and others who are on the blanket protest during the hunger strike. We can bring in people on the committee as the British attacked the wounded Bernadette Devlin, killed John Turnley, and others. Those are all issues that I would like to bring up, raise it, bring a tour, go to Belfast, go to Derry, go to Tyrone, family in the area with Martin Herzog, explore all those issues. Have you meet families of the hunger strikers, have them meet you. And one of the things that does, I should have also mentioned that with the speaking pool also. One of the things I forgot to, I overlooked, is how important those events are to people back home. When Carmel Quinn went back, when Mark Thompson goes back, when any of the people who come to the United States go back, it's a tremendous morale boost. They say the people in America behind us, the AOH is with us, they stand with us, this is all the support we have. They talk about the tour, and that again, buoys up, gives a morale boost, is everything on, using everything on that we do, makes them aware that how we're behind them, makes them confident that they can go ahead with our support. All right, the Christmas appeal. This year that ended, we had one of the most successful Christmas appeals ever. We're giving out almost up to just under $100,000. It's going to go to 19 different groups. I can explain any of them if anybody has a question about it. They're all listed in my report. Obviously, we're very worried about what we'll be able to do this year. There are a number of things that have been done. From Virginia, the divisions challenge each other. That's the success story under Jim McLaughlin, a great member of our committee, to give $1,000 each. In Florida, for example, Ray Lynch, what he did is he told all the divisions to contribute, and we want to have $1,000 so that our state is on record getting a prize. All of the groups and individuals who gave $1,000, who will get $1,000 rewards, I put you in on my report on the Q&A session. So they're all listed there. I want to honor you. You will be getting awards. Obviously, I couldn't give them out at the convention, but we will be presenting you with awards made by former former political prisoners who are still Republicans from Tyrone. We did something great last year with a forum, and they're doing something with an Easter proclamation that will be set up with a nameplate or a plate on it. It's going to go to the Freedom of Art for All Island supporters from the AOH and Ladies AOH. So I'd ask you, if you can't do an event, some groups are great, like Schenectady, for example. We got I thought there was a misprint. They had donations from the men and from the ladies after I spoke in an event. I thought there was a mistake made by a record keeper, Bob Bolback, who never makes mistakes. And they said, no, we each sent in $1,000 from those two, and men's AOH and a ladies division from one event. There are groups that just combine, like in the Bronx, we do what Ray Lynch did. We try and combine everybody, come up with $1,000. We're going to depend on state presidents this year to take more of an active role, because we're not going to have all of the events that we've been able to have in the past. And because British oppression goes on, as I said, Marley Foster says she'll never have a poll in her lifetime about freedom for all Ireland. She's 50. She's expecting that to be a long time. British have said that we have no say. They can't be challenged on when to do a border poll, that's something solely within the British Secretary's discretion. That's so what a British court ruled that. They say that they don't have to do anything on terms of the investigations, which they promised a number of years ago. They're worried about us. They're worried about our pressure. We've got to keep up the fight on that. Okay. With the committee, and I want to just thank everybody on my committee. They do a tremendous job. Brendan Moore, Sean O'Dad from Chicago, Malachi McAllister you'll be hearing from, Jerry McHale in Philadelphia, Bob Boblack in New Jersey, Upper New York, and Jim McLaughlin in Virginia, as well as Sean Pender, who always works with us on the committee of ex officio and who plays a leading role. All of them have done a great job, but they're looking to expand, as I may have said before, very quickly. We'd like somebody from Florida. We'd like to get somebody in the West Coast. We'd like to open up more in the Midwest. If you're willing to do the job, the work is there to be done, and it's an important job, as I said. It's one of the things about us that gives recognition. We have an FFAI bulletin. I know I'm supposed to send it out every month. I'm behind this month, as always. I'm getting it like in every 2 months. But what I try and do is target 4 or 5 key areas. Explain that so anybody who gets them can explain it. You know, you can distribute them. We're asking people in your area. There's no reason once they're there, if you have a division meeting or a county meeting, for somebody not to bring that up for FFAI, to read about 1 or 2 of the 3 of those issues. There's no reason not to follow the events that we have. I've gotten requests from those now, from other organizations. They're following our lead. They want to follow the agenda that's being set by the AOH. I see letters in the paper sometimes from people who I know have very little idea about those issues. Pick them up. They're in our bulletin. And it's important. If we can set the tone, if we can set the agenda, that is something that I think is very important. The videos, now they've gone out. Every time we send the video out, that Danny is preparing, and we've got one in the box from Derry, from the Bloody Sunday families, from the Museum of Free Derry. Trying to get one next from Tyrone. And one of the people I want to interview, he's actually grew up in Chicago and born in upstate New York, was on the Marita Ann, and became a political prisoner in Ireland from that. So we have serious people. They want to talk to us because of the work that we do. So, brothers, not sure. I'm supposed to leave time for questions, I think. Are there any questions?
You'll need to raise your hands on the screens, brothers, to get questions, and Chris and Tim will put you in.
All right, we have JP Philip Gallagher.
Sorry, my question was for the previous speaker, and I guess my hand was still up, but thank you for your presentation. And I just a little bit down memory lane. I saw you at the 78 convention in Killarney when you were a young fellow, you and Michael Flannery, and that was a long time ago.
That was the first convention. I was a member then, and that was the first convention where they voted that all FFAI monies would go to Ancum and Cara and Green Cross.
Green Cross, I remember it well.
Giving money to families of political prisoners. But back in 1979 in Killarney, that was done. We also had a guard try to infiltrate, and there were a number of other funny things during that convention.
Yeah, it was a very interesting convention.
Well, we had a great president at that time who was very interested in freedom.
Right.
It was something special. Any other questions? Any questions for me as opposed to the previous speaker?
All right, Timothy Miles.
Tim, don't say, could I go over the part that I spoke too fast? Because I know you're from Nassau, you can understand.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tim.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, and always a pleasure to see you. And hello, brothers. Tim Miles, past New York State AOH Freedom for All Ireland chairman. Martin, you were talking about commemorating the 40th anniversary of the hunger strike. Maybe I just can make a suggestion. 10 years ago, when I was New York State Freedom for All Ireland chairman, with the suggestion of our president at the time, Chip McLean, we had memorial cards made up with the 10 hunger strikers on it. And we presented it, we gave them out to all the brothers in the different divisions. All they had to do was ask for them. And I'm thinking maybe do something along the same lines and maybe have our printer do it, and have them available to divisions and county boards at cost. So just a thought.
Okay, Tim, we're hoping, if you look at the resolution that I had, it's too soon for us to come up with all the ideas that we're going to have. What I just have is that we're going to encourage, conduct, promote, and we've already talked that maybe we should have a 40th anniversary mass or masses at the time of the anniversary of Bobby Sands. We're going to have forums. We're going to try to have the tour, if we can have it this year in February, meet with the hunger strikers' families. We're going to have for example, if Frances Meehan is a speaker, if I can get approval for that, she's going to mention that her brother was killed just in the lead up to the first hunger strike. We've already, if you listen to the video with Brenda McFarland, and you couldn't get somebody more authoritative, he was speaking about the issues that led up to the hunger strike. Remember, this is something that began in 1976, went through to 1981. Cardinal Fee tried to resolve it quietly. There was a hunger strike in 1980. The British didn't let down. They were prepared to torture, brutalize, everything, have men die, rather than give up the idea of making them criminals for British propaganda. There's a great many things that we can do. I appreciate your suggestion, Tim, as I appreciate everybody's. And I should have mentioned with Congressman, Tim is always there. We have Congressman Swazi on a lot of the letters because Tim makes the call, nobody else. He wants to hear from Tim Miles, and then he will sign on. That's the word from his office. And
Thank you, Martin.
I think there's a Congresswoman in Nassau too, right? Congresswoman
Rice.
I think they both think you're a constituent of theirs. I don't know how you do it, but Tim is the type of guy who leads the way on congressional initiatives like that. And so anytime Tim makes a suggestion and a question, I pay a lot of attention to it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Brother Jim Sullivan.
Hi, Martin. It's Jim Sullivan, Florida State FFAI Chair.
Look at that. I remember when he was from Brooklyn. Now he's completely controlled.
It's warmer down here. Yeah, I just wanted, you were speaking before about how you moved out into Ohio and Chicago. Well, we're about the same distance from Chicago. And I'd really like to see somebody come down here and speak besides Tim and myself. It's a great spot. We're up and coming. There's more and more Hibernians joining. And what I wanted to do was to teach these people what is going on in Ireland, and it's not rosy, which everybody believes. So I was wondering if we could swing a tour down here, maybe to Orlando's, because it's pretty central. If not, then maybe have a Zoom meeting, like where we can get something in that way. What do you think about that?
Jim, you do a great job. We miss you up here in New York. Our loss is Florida's gain, obviously. Look, I'd like to see somebody on the National Committee from Florida. I was very pleased, and Florida, you, Ray Lynch, all congratulated Florida. I don't know if you've ever been on the list for $1,000 donors before, but you are on the list this year. You did a tremendous job to get there. We're going to rely more and more on states like yours to come through if we're going to be able to support people with the Christmas appeal. I'd like to send a speaker down. What happens is that it has to depend. What does it cost to fly somebody down? How many events are there? Is it something that's going to make a profit for us in terms of the Christmas appeal? It's something that's going to pay for itself. If everybody down there can guarantee it, that it's worthwhile, that's something that should happen, there's no reason we can only bring 1 or 2 speakers out. We have any number of speakers, who would like to come to the United States, who think it's important enough to address the AOH to come here. We can have something, one of the things I've been talking to them about, there's actually apparently a Spring Hill Massacre. Somebody who lives in Canada may be able to use for, say, Buffalo or Detroit or that area. We can bring speakers down to Florida, but we need somebody like you, like Ray, somebody like that to be responsible, to say, I'm going to make it a success, to take charge when that person gets off the plane, to fully be responsible, to get them onto the next destination and make sure their time is really worthwhile. You know, maybe even with congressmen or that sort of thing. I don't know how your senator is going to be, but Marco Rubio, well, but whatever. But that is definitely something I would like to do. That is something that if Florida makes a proposal that gets a speaker on the tour, we certainly are anxious and will be more than willing. If it's feasible, if it's workable, if it's something that's going to pay off, I can get you a speaker. I'll propose it to the incoming national president. I'm sure he'll go along with it. And, you know, as I said, we were told that nobody in the Midwest wanted a tour. We've had great events in Ohio and Chicago, and we want to expand and go to air, and Florida could be one of the next places that great.
And Martin, I'd also like to thank you for the great work you're doing. You're making everybody happy to be a part of FFAI.
Well, the idea is to make everybody mad at the British so they do more, but that's Tim, I appreciate that very much. I know you're doing a great job in Florida. I know New York's lost, and the work you did in Brooklyn is Florida's gain, and I could see the results already with you, Lynch. And again, I know there's people in other parts of the country who we can expand the national committee to, that we can do more in their areas, and Florida is just the next on the list.
Thank you very much.
Brother John McNally.
Road. Hey, Martin, I just want to mention, I sent you an email once about this before, but we have a slightly growing division here in Ventura in Southern California. We're trying to get it bigger. So, and we did several contributions to Freedom for All Ireland, finally got that up and running. If you notice, we did the Christmas appeal. I'm also state secretary and division president. And we'd someday like to be on your speaker tour list as well.
Look, at one time, another organization I was involved in, California used to be a key area. We would send somebody out to San Francisco. It could go up and down on the West Coast. They would raise a lot. I mean, you have the Speaker of the House of Representatives is from San Francisco. I would love to be able to do something in California and, you know, hit Washington, go up and down New Mexico, areas that are near Arizona, bring in those areas. But again, it all depends on the logistics, as Sean Pender always reminds me. You've got to have people responsible for the tour. We've got to make it worthwhile. We've got to be able to pay for the airfare and generate money on top of that. We've got to make the best use of the time of the people that are there. I know that there are people in California, or I'm hopeful that we can expand out there. Midwest has become now a viable and a crucial part of any tour. As far as I'm concerned, I want to build them in. I'd like to be able to reach out and do more in California, in the whole West Coast, and, you know, including Arizona, Washington State. We can do it. Great recruitment, something to build around, something to organize around. And sometimes people there, they haven't heard speakers from Ireland. And they're more receptive, more open, more responsive. People will be on the East Coast, but it's something definitely I'd like to do if we can work out the logistics and make it practical. There's no end of speakers. There's no end of British injustice. It's just a matter of whether we can afford to do it, whether we have the logistics, whether it's practical and a good use of their time.
Exactly. Yeah. If you could just keep us in mind, notify us, and we'll try to get
now
on.
You make a proposal. Say, if you can get a speaker out on the West Coast, here's what we're prepared to do, and I have somebody who's going to be responsible, and I'll be happy to flesh it out with you. I'd be happy to work on it with you. If it's a good proposal, I'll take it up to Danny O'Connell. If it's not, I'm not going to let him bite my head off because you have a bid.
All right. Okay, I'll come up with a business.
But listen, I like to get proposals for speakers. That people in Ireland, that they have a whole list of people who want to come out. Okay, I like good proposals like that. That's, you know, not something, if you can do it, it's not a hard sell to me. I'm on your side.
All right, I'll get it in writing. I was just hoping you'd say something like, you know, May 5th, somebody's coming through, and I'd organize around that. But I'll come up with a proposal first.
We can do more than one tour, or we don't, you know, we can start to do things like that. We want to have it the lead up on to May 5th, because we don't just want to start the day of the hunger strike, start something. If we have, look, we already had the video with Rick McClung. We already have, we'll have a hunger strike resolution that you can read. It'll go out from FFAI, I think. We have all that information about how the hunger strike happened. We're going to have a speaker talk about what happened the lead up to the hunger strike, young men being killed with plastic. By the time we get to May 5th, I want to be in a position where everybody knows so much about the hunger strike that everyone's going to want to have a memorial mass or memorial cards or a series of events. Maybe go to Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza in New York like we used to do in 1980, in 1981, after the deaths of the hunger strikers in 1981. Those are all on the board. I want you, everybody, I'm just trying to throw out ideas, and we're waiting for you to come back. And believe me, we want to implement. This is something we want to do. If you work on it, do the work with us.
And brother, we can piggyback. There's a possibility of piggybacking an East Coast event with a West Coast tour as well. So you'll have to be able to make sure we could get the people, make sure we could cover the expenses. That's our primary concern, to get the folks out. Many of these people are willing to go. Carmel Quinn, I think, had to be exhausted when she left. Martin had her in, I think, 23 states in 4 days, it seemed like. It was a boom. So we are willing to do it. And make sure you get an email into Martin so he has you on the list when we're looking for a tour. And we'd love to get somebody out there.
Danny, I have a very good friend, Danny McBrearty. He was one of the stops that we made on the last tour, the mural for his brother, George, who was killed in 1981 with his family. He tells me he's got son, a young out in San Francisco. He said he's got a number of, his son has a number of friends that they would join the AOH if we could get out there. But it's just simply a matter, we pay for the airfare, we pay for the time, is it something that we can do? And what you were saying a long time ago, I started running tours. I was dealing with a guy from Ireland, and I said, you know, we're not giving these people any rest. And he just said, look, they can rest when they get back to Belfast. You use every single day. Yeah. So they can relax. I'm putting you there to make sure they don't relax. Okay, any other questions?
Brother Victor Vogel.
Martin, I just wanted to publicly congratulate you and thank you for all the work that you have done. As a past New York State president, I have seen the work that you did in New York. Brothers, I highly recommending you scheduling Martin Galvin and a Freedom for All Ireland event. You did significant work in New York, and we can't thank you enough for it. Thank you, Martin.
I don't want to mention that I actually was appointed nationally, and I wanted to thank Judge McKay and Danny and everybody else, but somebody had some faith to appoint me as a New York State chair first. Who was that, Vic? I don't remember. No.
I don't remember either.
Look, I did miss in my actual remarks how grateful I am to Judge McKay, to Danny, to Sean Pender, and to Jerry Cole for appointing me to National Justice. Vic appointed me on the state basis, and Tom Lambert continues me on now. How I think this work is really important. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do it, and I'm very grateful sincerely, not just to my committee. I think I mentioned everybody, but I'm very grateful to all of you. There are a number of tremendous people. Some of the people call in, like Tim Miles or Jim Sullivan or some of the other people on these questions. I know they do a tremendous job in their area. And that's why we're a success, because people in their areas, local areas, do a great job. And we're all in this together. And when you go back to Ireland, be proud of the work that you do, because people in Ireland are grateful to you, and you deserve to be proud. Okay, any other questions?
We have Brother Paul Gowdy.
Brother Galvin, how the hell are you doing, buddy? You're looking good.
Well, now that I'm at the end of my report, I'm okay. I'm better than I was.
Well, I must say I coached you well over those last few years. But no, one thing I wanted to bring to your attention, Martin, was that this year, here in Michigan, we had a hell of a lot of problems trying to get donations from our divisions because of the virus and because of the trying to feed hunger people around the state. They were holding back resources because they were donating more to charitable organizations. I know that hopefully it'll be over before next year, but I want to say you guys between the AOH and the LAOH did a great job with the donations that we got this year. And I must say, my wife took good care of you. She was always saying, Martin's doing this, Martin's doing that. And I said, well, that's good. He's the man for the job. So congratulations, buddy. And thank you for all the hard work that you've put in this last year.
All right, look, we did raise a lot. Thank you, Paul. Paul was my predecessor as Freedom for All Ireland chair. I want to thank you for the work that you did. Look, this year coming up, we did a great job in terms of raising money this past year. Well, we did a good job in compared to past years. We had almost a record-breaking amount. We're distributing close to just under $100,000. This year coming up, the Christmas appeal is going to start around late September, October. It's going to be tough because a lot of the events that happened past year, a lot of the events that we counted on to fund the Christmas appeal, we may not be able to do them. We probably will not be able to do them. Even when I talk about a tour in November, those are 3 big events that I've mentioned already. They may not happen. I'm counting on everybody. I'm making a proposal. It's in my report. asking the presidents, do what Ray Lynch did, do what some of the other presidents have done, try to come together. We'd like every state, or almost every state, to come together and at least get $1,000 together, get the collection up from all your divisions so that no one is responsible. And then you'll get an award. We'll start with that. We'll guarantee at least that this year we don't go from the best number ever to the worst number ever, in 1 year because of the virus, because those people still depend on us for help. They depend on us politically, for publicity, for everything, and certainly depend on us for the Christmas appeal. So I throw that out again, and it's something definitely I'm asking people to think about. That's a proposal I'll be making to the National Board Assembly. Any other questions?
We have Robert Nolan.
Thank you very much, President-elect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Martin, thank you very much for all that you do here in Bronx County as our county president, and of course, as chair of the federal and national and state Freedom for All Ireland. As you know, I hold the position of district director for Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester County. But more importantly, you and I have had many conversations over the years about outreach to members of Congress. And I'd like to just reiterate the point that you don't need to be Irish to be approached by a Hibernian to sign on to the letters that you prepare. That we need, especially as 2021 approaches and new members of Congress will be seated on January 3rd. I think that our divisions and our county presidents need to outreach to every member of Congress starting in January and set aside January, February, and March to visit that member of Congress in their district and to let them know of the concerns that we have and the help that we need from them to help us out when it comes to United Ireland. And I think with 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate, that I think they need to know that we're not just looking for Irish Catholics to be supportive of our letters, but we need to have everybody, regardless of race, color, or creed, be supportive of our cause for United Ireland. And I thought you might want to talk about that a bit more.
Thank you, Bob. Bob does a great job in the Bronx. I think we had Esperanto, and 1 year we had all the Bronx members of the Bronx Congressional delegation sign a letter. I think Esperanto is on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm not even pronouncing his name correctly. We've already gone and seen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, along with Dan Denny, myself, Bob, and some other people, just to start the building a bridge about Irish issues. We will have to go see Jamal Bowman, although I was very close to Elliot Engel, have been for many years. We're going to have to build that bridge because they are now going to be in the seats. It's very easy for them to sign a letter. 10 of the members of Congress are signing a letter. You'll be the 11th. Doesn't cost you a thing. We're not asking them to build something in our area. We're not asking them to cause a fight. All we're asking them to do is sign, and then they can hold that up and say, yeah, I do things for the Irish. I do care about Irish issues, especially Freedom for All Ireland. There are a number of things like Ballymurphy, like some of the other letters that I've had and I can send out. They're there. We're going to be asking on issues like those if there's a relationship. But I've already talked to people in Queens about Congressman Meeks. There are other members of Congress. There's a guy, Kildee, in Michigan, and I don't even know if we have AOH members in his district. I think he's originally from Ireland. He's very interested. We have other people. As I said, I mentioned Congressman Higgins was a concern. Tom Lambert went up to see him. Tim Miles with Congressman Swazi. Vic re-energized Peter King. There are congressmen like that all around the country that if we go in and talk to them and build a relationship that will get them on a letter, that will get a speaker in to see them for 5 minutes. We're not asking for a lot, but we shouldn't accept anything less.
Thank you, Martin. Great work. One of the best presentations as usual.